Hey guys, look where we're at here at SuiteWorld 2025 in Las Vegas. We are excited to share some new episodes with you that we recorded here live in SuiteWorld in Las Vegas, talking about AI and innovation and what CFOs can do to be better leaders in this organization. So we're so excited to have you here, so stay tuned for some great episodes. Well, Evan, thank you so much for coming on the Count Me In podcast. We're excited to be here at SuiteWorld chatting with you. And I wanted to kind of start our conversation. You started NetSuite 27 years ago. Did you ever imagine that it would become like the #1 cloud ERP?
Yeah, I would say I imagined it, but there's a lot of hard work and toil and innovation that stands between that wish and the actual fulfillment.
Of course. Yeah, because it's, when you're, what inspired you to kind of get into this space to do that?
Right. So, well, I ran another startup before NetSuite, and we didn't succeed at our vision. We did work similarly hard. And one of the things I came to realize is that if you're an entrepreneur, or were an entrepreneur back in 1998, there weren't a lot of great tools to help you manage your company, and you had to kind of cobble a bunch of stuff together, and you never could get sort of an integrated view of what was happening in your business. So that's what inspired me to say I'd like to solve that problem for entrepreneurs. And I like to say that NetSuite was a company designed by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. I started it with Larry Ellison, obviously an incredibly successful entrepreneur himself.
Definitely. Was there a certain point in time that you realized that NetSuite was going to be ahead of its time, that it was going that direction?
Well, certainly when I first saw it, I mean, we went from using QuickBooks and for the very small number of months until we had kind of the basics of NetSuite accounting up and running, and then we uploaded our QuickBooks file, and when I saw it in the browser that I could, and I think I was in my home at the time, that I could get those key metrics about my business anytime, anywhere, I was like, yeah, this is going to work.
Yeah. And it seems like that because when you talk to other people who use the software, they seem to have that same feeling, like it grows, that NetSuite scales with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's certainly what we've built it for, knowing that our customers are themselves fast-growing companies. We were a fast-growing company, so we were using our own technology to help us grow, and that their companies change rapidly, their systems need to adapt and scale with them, be able to handle not just increased volume, but increased complexity, and that they needed to be flexible, that they need to be able to themselves adapt the system for their particular unique business processes and what makes them special as a company.
Definitely. So you made some pretty big announcements yesterday at the keynote. How would you describe what makes this moment different with this announcement?
Well, we've certainly all seen the power of these AI tools over the past few years. And I do think it has some similarity to when the internet first sort of, took the world by storm in 1994, 1995. And at first people were like, wow, I can get information out so easily. It took a few years for it to really start to impact the business world in more like exchange of information and storage of information, and that's certainly where NetSuite kicked in. So I think there's something similar happening now with AI, where at first, it was really neat to see all the things it could do. You could ask it questions about things you were interested in and get instant answers. Now we're seeing more of how can it participate in business? How can it become part of the sort of whole ecosystem of running your business? And so many of the announcements that have come here at SuiteWorld have been about that idea that it can become sort of a partner in your business, both inside NetSuite as a user and also using these tools outside NetSuite and having it be able to exchange business information and utilize that business information. And so we demonstrated it obviously to the crowd yesterday and today, but I was also just out on the show floor, and we're showing it in action. Customers are coming up and asking questions to Ask Oracle and checking out these technologies that are real, that are happening now. So it's a really exciting time.
One thing you said yesterday, you was like, ask Oracle was a jet engine, not a co-pilot. And maybe you could talk about what does that mean for business leaders when they're working with this AI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's obviously going to be some change management because people are going to have to go from how they're used to interacting with business applications, and much of that is going to continue to work. But I think as they see how easy it is to be able to just ask questions and get answers, I think that's, it's going to be a natural transition. I mean, using the approach that has worked for humans for literally hundreds of thousands of years, just, say what you want and hopefully get what you want.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you balance innovation at an Oracle NetSuite, especially when you have to speed, you have to build all these things so quickly, but also keep trust with, accounting and finance professionals are very skeptical people.
Right.
They really want to know the details.
Right. And it's not a coincidence that one of the first features we released that used AI is financial exception management. And now we're showing sort of already the second generation of that here at SuiteWorld to show, even more types of exceptions that it, outside of just sort of your GL entries, but then other types of transactions that it can look for anomalies. But interestingly, that's what we knew was sort of the first thing. Is let's just see if it can dive into your data and bring back exceptions with the human in the loop. You get to look at it and see whether this is the right thing. And if we can sort of win over accounting and finance professionals with that, and they start to trust that, maybe they'll trust some of the other workflows that we're really starting to automate towards this autonomous close, autonomous accounting, as we were talking about, just making it much easier to get your job done so you can focus on those really more strategic initiatives to help your company.
So let's talk about that autonomous close. It's something that, at IMA we have lots of webinars, people talking about the best way to close fastly.
Right.
Some organizations say the continuous close. What is it about the autonomous close?
Yeah, I think a continuous close is a good way of looking at it also. It's just this idea that many of these things that you do after the end of the period, with the help of AI and with the help of some of the tools like NetSuite, you can get them done sooner. You can get them done in a pro forma way so that even in the middle of the month or the middle of the quarter, you get an accurate picture of the state of the business. So if you have to make decisions, based on your current financial position and based on your projections, you can do that with confidence. And again, a lot of what happens at the end of the period is it's kind of set routine to do it. It requires a lot of communication. Well, AI is both good at both of those things and can do it 24/7, 365. So I think it's a combination of the power of AI along with the evolving, I guess you'd say almost culture of companies that are just want to operate always in real time on the best possible information they can have.
Well, and that's going to change whole mindsets of organizations. And what is that going to look like? What skills are tomorrow's leaders are going to need? That's
a great question. And I think that everybody is thinking about what does my job look like in the age of AIs and what do where should I be focused? I do think obviously everybody that's coming here at SuiteWorld is getting a big step forward because they're getting to see in action, right there in the demo grounds, what it's going to look like to be able to query and get answers right in real time about your financial information, your financial position, and how the next generation of sort of anomaly detection is going to work. So certainly I'd encourage everybody that's using NetSuite in a finance role to become familiar with these technologies so you can sort of hit the ground running when they hit in the coming months and years.
So what about when somebody's like a small to medium-sized business and they see such a big organization like Oracle NetSuite? Is this system for them as well?
I think one of the most exciting prospects for AI is it's going to make it even easier to implement NetSuite. It's going to make it even easier to use NetSuite built into Ask Oracle, which is our sort of conversational centerpiece. It is sort of the jet engine, as I said. But as part of that is what we call NetSuite Expert, that helps you figure out how to configure NetSuite, how to do things in NetSuite. This is all about making companies that have limited resources, where you have people doing 10 different jobs at once, be able to get further faster with NetSuite, without necessarily taking training, without going and learning complex workflows. It can both tell you how to do it and ultimately do it for you. So I think actually AI is going to make Oracle NetSuite way more accessible to companies at every stage of their evolution.
Yeah, because I talk to CFOs for smaller organizations, and they have to wear so many different hats. Absolutely. And so when you're talking about that, it seems like this is like the perfect kind of solution for them.
Right. I mean, they can, and it, and just in terms of bringing people into your finance organization and having them come up to speed quickly, this is what it's all about, right? They can become productive very quickly. And this is AI that knows your company already, and it knows your configurations, and it knows how you do things. That's the whole idea of really building NetSuite ultimately around this AI, around Ask Oracle. And so that someone coming in, not only can they learn to use NetSuite very quickly, but the way that they use NetSuite with Ask Oracle is going to be attuned to how you've set up your NetSuite, how things operate in your company. And again, just rapid time to value for new people is something that small companies really want and need, because they just got to, they need everybody to hit the ground running, and this is going to be part of that solution.
Well, and the way you're building it, I like how there's a knowledge base, because a lot of times people worry about with AI, the hallucinations, the incorrect information, but if you're building it on the information for your organization, it works better.
Certainly, and trust and transparency are two absolutely critical elements of NetSuite Next, that you can see where every number comes from, what's behind it, but these models, these large language models, they're not perfect, obviously. And so one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we're getting very rapid feedback from our customers. We're going to have a multi-month preview period where everybody can try it in their accounts. And so that's going to give us an ability to tune it even better than we've done sort of in the labs once it's sort of out in the field.
Yeah, definitely. So you've been leading Oracle or NetSuite for almost 3 decades now. What kind of excites you about what's happening next?
I mean, this is the most exciting time for technology since the internet, and in many ways more exciting. I had an aborted trip to graduate school for AI back in the early 1990s. And, as we all now looking back, the technology was not ready for prime time, but it got me so excited because I've always been in software to help people accomplish their daily tasks more easily. And it's been obvious for a long time that if we could actually get these things to be practical and scalable, these neural nets and now these large language models and transformer architecture, that we were going to be able to make it much easier for people to accomplish their daily tasks. And that's what everybody wants out of software. And there's, it's sort of a no better time to be in software. I do think it is ultimately going to be more, the internet was great, connected people. It was the kind of, infrastructure on which we were able to build NetSuite, obviously. But I think this is ultimately going to be more impactful in terms of people's ability to get more work done faster, more effectively, more accurately, and be able to do what they truly want to do in building their business, which is focus on their customers, their products, their services, and not necessarily on some of the nuts and bolts that are necessary and important, but take up a lot of time.
So what about the next generation of accounting and finance professionals? What would you say to them to get ready to come into this new workforce?
Right, and as I mentioned, I think obviously learning how these tools are using AI and becoming proficient with that. People talk about things like prompt engineering. I mean, that's not what we're aiming for people to be doing with NetSuite. We are aiming for them to be able to ask the question the same way you'd ask to a knowledgeable colleague. Like, you don't do I mean, it is true sometimes you do have to ask questions a little bit differently when you're talking to different people, but mostly you ask your questions in a natural way and you get your answer back in a natural way. So in that regard, I don't think that's as much what finance professionals should be looking at. Of course, they still need the skills that they've always had, because you need to be able to understand when the system explains to you how it's doing things, you need to understand the principles just as well as it does, so that you can feel confident. We're going to do everything to make you feel confident. But those skills are certainly absolutely continue to be applicable. But I think that up-leveling to more strategic discussions means learning more about the strategy behind the numbers. What are strategic ways you can use your skills to help, ultimately everybody who's in an accounting or finance department wants to make the business run better, wants to make the business achieve its goals more quickly. And there are obviously lots of strategic ways to do that with the limited resources that every business has. That's where I think people should be thinking about applying their expertise. How do we strategically use the financial resources we have to reach our goals faster? And that's a lot better thing to be thinking about and working on than trying to track down some error in a GL entry.
Very true. So let's say somebody's listening to this conversation, they're an entrepreneur, they want to get going, they want to be a startup founder, kind of like you were. What advice would you give to them to build something that lasts?
That's a great question. And there's always that balance when you're building a company between wanting to get your product or service to market and wanting to get out there fast and then wanting to build something that's scalable. And you really have to do sort of both at the same time. You have to be building the boat as you're sailing it, so to speak. So that's, I think, it's a tricky balance to get right. But in the long run, as long as you keep that North Star in mind and you have that vision of where things are going to go, I think you can get a good balance. And you'll make some mistakes and you'll do some things in a short-term way that you wish you'd thought more long-term. You'll spend more time on something thinking about the long-term. I wish we'd gotten this feature or this capability or close this customer or whatever it is more quickly. But keeping those sort of two sides of the equation always in your head, and each time just trying to make the best possible decision you can about how to balance the fear, that what they call the fierce urgency of now, with building something sustainable that will last. As long as you know that both of those, I think entrepreneurs make really good decisions. I feel like we went through the whole journey that so many entrepreneurs do, and fortunately, I think we were good enough that we're still here today, 27 years later.
Yeah, that's great. Because it's also about building a good foundation. I kind of was listening to some of the keynotes yesterday and some of their stories. Is you need to build things with you that are scalable, kind of
Absolutely.
like the way NetSuite can kind of grow people with that scalability. And so it's interesting trying to make those decisions to lay that foundation. And I'm sure that's a hard decision.
Right, and it's actually what we think about in NetSuite is obviously we want it to be very approachable and usable, and all these AI features are going to make that true. But we also want it to be solid and scalable and be able to handle your company from very small to very big. So we're thinking about those trade-offs between obviously ease of use and power. And again, I think we don't always get that balance exactly right. Then we adjust and we fix it. But I think overall, the 43,000 plus customers, we've been able to get a great balance for a really exciting set of companies that, as we're seeing here at SuiteWorld, are doing incredible things in whatever their world is.
Well, Evan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was great chatting with you today.
It's so great to be here. Thank you.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.